What's the fastest way to push a woman away that you're interested in?
Oh, wow. The fastest way to push a woman away that you're interested in is to chase her. And I'm using that term intentionally because most people would will lump pursuit and chase in they're not the same thing. To pursue a woman is not to chase her. Just like I teach, women should never chase men, men should never chase women. Anything you're chasing is running away from you. Think about that. Anything that you have to chase is running away from you. The fastest way to lose the interest of a woman you're interested in is to chase her. A man should be clear about how he feels, what he thinks, what he desires from a woman. But if she does not reciprocate that sentiment, he should let that go. If I have made the eye contact, I've made my way across the room, I've said to you, hello, my name is, and you've said to me, hello, my name is, and we've had this wonderful conversation. And I've said to you, well, hey, I enjoyed this time with you. How's lunch next week? And we go to lunch next week, and you have all of my information. You've had a chance to interrogate me. You got a sense that I'm not a creep or a dangerous guy, and I make a call to you after lunch. I make a call to you a day or so later. You don't return that call. I make another call to you a day or so later. You don't return that call. I leave you a text. You don't respond to that. I'm not reaching anymore. Now it's your turn. Because anything beyond that becomes chasing. A guy that's begging a woman, uh, you know, whatever you need me to do, whatever you want me to do, she's going to automatically be a guy that is overtly sexual. Many guys have lost great women because they couldn't control themselves sexually. And you listen to this stuff and nobody's taught you, and you're coming out with all of this strong sexual energy. You're going to lose the interest of a great woman every time. So, chasing a guy that's overly sexual, a guy that does not listen. Women, healthy women pay attention to the empathy level of a man, his ability to put himself in her shoes and see life from her perspective. Well, we can't do that if we don't listen. Any guy that will listen to a woman will actively listen. I mean, really sit in conversation mode and actively listen to a woman is going to make an impression on that woman's heart. So a guy that you will drive her away if you don't know how to listen, if you're so egotistical that the whole night the conversation is about you and how much money I got, and how much weight I can lift, and my career advancement, and all the girls that want me, and your conversation goes to that which is sexual, or your guy that's just sitting there like a puppy waiting for its master, with your tongue hanging out. You just so enamored. You may be blown away by this woman. You have to have enough self-control to harness that until you know it's safe for you as a man to be able to be as vulnerable as to let a woman know all of your heart. So those are just some of my old guy thoughts.
I want to talk about vulnerability in men because, obviously over the years, and it's gotten better now, men have been seen as weak if they show emotion and they open up. And now you're seeing a lot more people talk about the importance of men being vulnerable, opening up. You talked about emotional intelligence. You talked about guys, needing to listen to women if they want them to stick around. And vulnerability is obviously very important in relationships. Where's the healthy balance with that to where a man isn't overly emotional and vulnerable and ends up pushing a woman away because he's proven that he doesn't know how to harness his emotions?
Correct. And that's a very, very, very good point because many times guys, get great women that they can open up to. And rather than balancing that, they just kind of go and do a complete and total emotional dump on their woman, you know, ever so often. As a man, you have to understand that when the Bible talks about, uses the term husband biblically, the etymology behind that word, it's made of two words: house band. The husband is the house band. One portion of scripture talks about how the husband should honor the wife as being the weaker vessel, meaning he should be the stronger one. When a woman submits, we often use that term in the church, submission. Well, when a woman submits to a man, it's a choice of the woman's, but women naturally submit to men that are their safe place. And so, um, though it is my privilege to have a wife that I can say, well, babe, I'm not feeling my best today. My confidence is kind of down about X, Y, Z. I don't take and just dump all of my stuff that I'm dealing with as a man on my wife. It's because she is not designed to carry that. There's a weight limit on relationships, and a man has to understand when something is for him to share with his wife versus when it's something for him to share with his circle. That's why every man needs a strong, righteous circle of brothers versus when it's something he needs to bring to his therapist. But as a man, I can't be the one sitting at the table, in a puddle of tears crying about the bills backed up. And I'm saying I'm sitting in a puddle of tears crying about the bills backed up. We don't have enough money. And then at the same time, I'm saying to my wife, well, submit to me as your leader. You see, this is another mistake. This is something I observed my late father in terms of how he functioned with my mother. He never dumped emotionally on my mom. And though he had a lot of things on his heart and on his mind, the man has to be the emotional fortress of the woman. The movie Godfather, he put it best. So many lessons in that movie. And I know some say, well, how does a preacher watch a gangster movie and get lessons? A lot of lessons in that movie. The old man said, women and children can afford to be careless, but men cannot. You know why? It's because the buck stops with you. And so, as a man, we have to be, you used the term just a second ago, we have to be even more emotionally intelligent. We got to know when we're starting to move towards our limits. Because if I go off the rails, my wife and my kids and my grandkids are coming with me because I am, as the Bible puts it, the strong man of my family. And so there's a limit that a man should dump on his wife. Then there are things that a man needs to bring to other men. Then there are things that a man needs to bring to his counselor or his therapist, you know? And so you gotta figure out the balance. I think every man has to be honest with himself when he's not healthy, when you're just at that place. And I've been there. And what I did, what has been my practice, as opposed to just dumping on my wife, what I did was I've been transparent enough, vulnerable enough to say I'm not in a good place right now, you know, and she kind of knows what that means. I'm not in a good place, but you've reached your weight limit. But if you see me acting a little strange, don't take it personally. And then I'd go outside and I'd find some other men, or I'd find counsel from one of my mentors, or I'd go get a counselor, and I would allow I would process my stuff in a proper place. Just because your wife is a safe place doesn't mean she's a proper place to vent certain things. It would be the same thing as a parent, taking the 6-year-old kid or the 8-year-old kid or the 10-year-old kid, sitting them down at the table and crying in a puddle of tears about the bills and your tuition, how we're going to pay your tuition. Well, that's too much weight for that 10-year-old kid. You know what I mean? The most they should hear is, hey man, dad's trying to process some stuff. So if I look a little different, it's not about you. I'm just dealing with some stuff. And so likewise it is with a man and his wife. You have to know how much your wife can handle. And then it behooves you to find a strong circle or qualified counselors or mentors.
When women say, I want men to open up to me more, I want men to be vulnerable, what do they mean by that?
We have a tendency as men to be very guarded. We go from the extreme of dumping, you know, we go from we go from that extreme to just being almost like a marble statue. You know, we don't express our feelings, our thoughts, our emotion, oh, and most of the time this is done in the name of being cool, but it almost feels for the woman like it's hard to crack this guy's soul. Who is this guy on the inside? Because we live in this pod of masculinity, we call it, alpha maleism, and we don't let the woman in. Sometimes that's because we've been trained to do it that way. you know Men that are toxically mysterious tend to have greater outcomes in terms of sexual experiences. When a woman can't figure a man out, a broken woman, that's been hurt by the culture, she tends to pursue that guy because, or chase that guy because she wants to prove that she can crack this code. Or we have the guy that's been hurt before, and so now he's shut up, and he wants to be with women, but he's not letting anybody in. But the reality is, you can't develop a healthy, meaningful relationship with a woman if you don't possess the capacity to let her in to a certain extent. So while it is, advised for every man to have a fence around himself, because you have to guard your heart as a man, because when a woman's heart gets broken, she goes home and she cries in her pillow. When a man's heart gets broken, he burns the city down. So a man has to guard his heart, but we have to be careful not to have walls that are impenetrable, and rather have fences with gates that we open and close appropriately, letting the right people in at the right time. And so when women say, well, I wish he would just be more vulnerable, she wants to know, what are your dreams? What's your vision? What are you feeling sometimes? What are you thinking? What makes you happy? What makes you laugh? What do you like? What don't you like? A lot of times, all of these things are missing in terms of our conversation with women. They just don't have a clue who we are.